Hi, my name is Melodee Lee, and I'd like to share some photos about my family and talk about who they are. First, I'd like to share my grandparents on their wedding day. My family background is that we were Koreans in China. During the 1910s and 1940s, during the Japanese occupation of Korea, there were a lot of refugees who fled, and my my ancestors as well were refugees that ended up in China. So I'm fourth generation Korean in China on my mother's side and third generation on my father's side. And one way that these families, these refugees and immigrants kept their identities and their cultures alive was through clothing. So you can see that for both my grandparents and my parents' wedding photos, they're wearing, or the women are wearing hanbok, which is Korean national traditional attire for their weddings. And similarly with kids wearing them on dol, their first birthdays. And as for this third photo, this is my grandmother taken about 6 years ago, about a year before she passed. And I can appreciate all the wisdom and the life experience in this photo. But one thing that's a little difficult for me is that I really had no relationship with my grandparents. Between never having lived daily life together or never having visits with nearly enough frequency to build a relationship, there just wasn't much to cement us together to an emotional bond. Not to mention having multiple language barriers, where my pre-elementary Chinese was only slightly better than my grandparents' Chinese, since they spoke Korean like many of their generation. But through this, it really strikes me how having lived countries apart and an ocean apart, and how much my parents had to sacrifice intentionally for their future and for my future. And as I'm going to this next phase of my life of preparing to get married, I'm just hoping. I think one hope that I have for my family going forward is that I'll never have to be again in a place of being immigrants, of being separated from family like this.